Welcome back to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Ratings. This happened in the 90s, back when no one had caller ID. My friend Jenny was a stay-at-home mom, and her husband Walter worked long hours, commuting by train to the big city. Walter owned a BMW and dropped it off for service early one morning at the dealership near his train station. The dealership even gave him a ride to the station. That evening, Walter picked up the car and returned home. No problem, right? Well, the nightmare began days later. The first call came from a marketing company BMW had hired to conduct their surveys. Jenny answered, but they insisted on speaking only to Walter. Jenny asked him to call back in the evening when he was home. That night, when they called, Walter was exhausted and didn't want to deal with it. He asked Jenny to tell them he wasn't interested. They replied that they would try again another time. And they did. The calls came multiple times a week for over a month, always asking for Walter, but he kept refusing to answer. Jenny begged both the marketing company to stop calling and Walter to just take the survey already. She swore they called no fewer than 30 times. Finally, Jenny went down to the dealership to ask them to stop the calls. The receptionist was a bit dismissive and said she couldn't do anything. Luckily, Jenny spotted a very large sign that read, "If you aren't going to give us a 5-star rating, please call and speak to the general manager." So the next time the survey company called, asking for Walter, Jenny decided to handle things herself. "I'm calling for Walter." "Speaking. I'm calling for Walter." "That's me. I'm calling for Walter." "Are you making fun of my name?" "Oh no, of course not." And just like that, Jenny took the survey herself, giving no higher than 3 stars on any question. The next story is called Software Trend. 45 years ago, I spent a few months as a software engineer for a Midwest company that built industrial control systems, writing assembler for an embedded micro. At the time, management had just attended a seminar on structured design, the latest software trend, and they were fully convinced it was the way forward. My manager, Jerry, called me into his office and asked to see my work. He wasn't a programmer, but sure, whatever. I handed him my listing, about half an inch thick, and moved on with my day. A few days later he called me back into his office. "You've got some work to do," he said, clearly frustrated. I looked down at his desk, where my 885 macro assembler listing was heavily marked up in red pencil, with every jump instruction circled. "This is now our go-to-less shop. You've got to get these out of here." "Jerry, this is assembler code. That's different from our high-level language. I don't want a bunch of excuses. You have 2 weeks. Well, this was ridiculous. I stared at the code for a while, then got a flash of inspiration. The actual flow of control remained unchanged, though the exact instructions made it slightly slower. But since the system controlled giant industrial batching equipment, the difference was negligible. When I finished, my listing had doubled in size. I dropped the nearly 2-inch thick printout onto Jerry's desk and went home. He would either spot the joke and be upset, or, hopefully, believe that I had magically transformed the program into a properly structured design application. Some of those title blocks were pretty creative. He bought it. Suddenly I was an expert software engineer, well versed in structured design principles, and the application made it into distribution. Not long after, I left the company, and I pretty much forgot about the whole thing. Until 3 years later. At the time I was biking across the United States when I got a message from a new employee in the company. He had been assigned to maintain the legacy system and was struggling to make sense of my listing. I called him back from a payphone in Texas. He sounded completely bewildered. "Did you write this? I mean, I don't understand. What are you actually doing here?" There's only one thing you need to know," I said, and proceeded to tell him the story of Jerry and the structured design hack. By the end, he was practically laughing out loud. "Well, they fired that guy a while ago," he told me. Now he shared my little secret about virtual software modules and promised not to tell. The last story is called Contract Discount. About 2 years ago, I had a customer complain that we had raised the price of his phone contract. I work for one of the major UK mobile phone companies as a customer service representative. Over the years, I've dealt with my fair share of difficult customers and ridiculous requests, but this one really stood out. Every March, we have a price increase, based on the rate of inflation published in November, plus 3.9%. This has been standard in all contracts for as long as I've worked here. Every year we send out letters in February to inform customers. And every year we get calls asking, what is this? Most of the time I handle these calls pretty well. I explain that they agreed to it in their contract. And if necessary, I even read out the exact section. If they bought the contract in store, they have a physical copy. So I ask, do you see where you signed your name in the box that says, I have read and understand the terms and conditions of the contract? Well, just above that there's another box that states it. That usually ends the argument. Enter Kevin. One day, after spending all day handling these kinds of calls, I got one from a customer. Let's call him Kevin. He was furious about the price increase. He insisted that his contract stated £30, and that was what he agreed to. No more, no less. He claimed he would never have agreed to a contract where the price could change. I explained the situation, how all companies adjust prices over time. But he wasn't having it. Most customers eventually understand, even if they don't like it. But Kevin kept going in circles, repeating the same arguments I had already addressed. At one point he even admitted that he never read the contract. Sir, if you don't read a 30 miles per hour speed limit sign and drive 70, you'll still get stopped by the police. Just because you didn't read it doesn't mean it doesn't apply. Besides, you signed the box stating you had read it, so you were aware of it. That didn't sit well with him. He then declared that if his contract wasn't reverted to what he believed he agreed to, he would cancel his direct debit and take us to court. During our conversation, I had noticed something interesting. His contract was actually £60 per month, but the first 3 months were half price. However, the agent who set it up had accidentally applied an indefinite 50% discount instead of the intended 3-month promotion. So after an hour on the phone and me being well overdue for my break, I finally said, okay sir, on this occasion I'm willing to waive the price increase and revert your plan to the original agreed upon price. Since I cannot stop the price adjustment, I will instead apply a discount to offset the increase. And as you have requested, I will also ensure your plan is exactly as agreed. I removed the increased discount and also removed the incorrect 50% discount that had been applied for over a year. So I can confirm your plan will remain at the agreed upon price of £60. After a stunned silence, he finally asked, what do you mean £60? I explained that his contract was always £60 per month, with 3 months at half price, but due to an error, this 50% discount had remained far longer than it should have. He immediately told me to leave everything as it was, but by that point it was too late. He had confirmed that he wanted his contract corrected, and even if he hadn't, our system requires us to report and correct incorrect discounts. But this was much more satisfying. Eventually the issue escalated to my manager, who fully supported my actions and confirmed that the discount could not be applied per policy. It went even higher to the executive complaints team, who sent him a letter of deadlock, meaning he could take his case to Ofcom if he wanted. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.